Today, I'd like to introduce a new loan program with you. It's not a real estate loan. Now, possibly you've heard of the term stock loan, or stock secured financing, or maybe securities based lending. All of these refer to loans where a borrower pledges securities, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, or options as collateral for a loan. There's no lien placed upon any asset such as real estate or personal property. The securities alone stand as collateral for the debt, and the loan proceeds may be used for any purpose other than to purchase more securities. The loan has some features which will definitely surprise you. First off, the interest rates for these loans are extremely low, usually between 2.5% to 4.5%, and you may be able to borrow as much as 80% of the security's current value. The factors that determine the final interest rate and the amount of the loan are, how actively traded and liquid the securities that are being put up are on the open market. The loan term is typically between 3 to 10 years. The interest rate is fixed throughout the term of the loan. Payments, they're not made monthly, they're made quarterly, and they're interest only. These loans are offered with minimal closing costs and no transaction fees. We can fund the loan in just a matter of days. No credit reports required, no income or employment verification is done. Now, not all types of securities may be used as collateral. The securities must be able to be free traded without any restrictions, and the borrower must be able to prove that they are not a 10% or greater owner, director, or executive officer in the company that is the issuer of the securities. Retirement funds such as 401ks and pension plans do not qualify for the program. One of the best features of these loans is that they are non-recourse. That means that if the borrower doesn't make the interest payments when due or fails to repay the principal at the end of the loan, the lender's only option is to keep the securities that were placed as collateral. If the borrower defaults, the loan is simply canceled, and the borrower keeps the money received from the loan, and the lender keeps all the interest in the securities. The default is not reported to any credit bureau, and no public record is recorded. The loan application process is extremely simple. It only takes just a few days to complete the loan process and receive the funds. To begin with, we need the name and the number of shares that the borrower wishes to pledge, along with the loan amount and the term desired. The underwriter then does a preliminary examination of the loan request, and based upon an assessment of risks, they'll determine the loan-to-value ratio along with a proposed interest rate. The terms are offered to the borrower, and upon agreement by both parties, the loan documents are drawn up and arrangements are made for the securities to be transferred to a holding company. A final value is then given to the securities based on an average of the closing price of the collateral for 3 consecutive market days. This is called the strike price. The borrower then transfers the ownership of the securities to the lender. Now, this is important. The borrower still retains all of the beneficial interests in the securities and will receive any dividends or interest that accrues from the securities during the term of the loan. At the end of the loan term, the loan can be renewed, refinanced, or paid off. If the loan is paid in full at the agreed-upon term, the exact number of shares or collateral initially pledged is returned to the borrower. If they've appreciated or depreciated, whatever the case, the same amount of shares is returned to the borrower. Now, one important point is that there is a lockout for the term of the loan, which means the borrower may not make any principal reduction payments or pay off the loan entirely until the end of the loan term. Now, there is another way for the loan to default. Now, this can occur if the value of the securities fall to 70 to 80% of the original loan amount. Keep in mind that the loan was for no more than 80% of the value in the first place, so the securities would really have to fall by about 65% of the value that they had at the time of the loan for this to kick in. If it does occur, the contract may require the borrower to contribute additional cash or shares as more collateral to keep the loan out of default. But that decision is solely up to the borrower. Remember, this loan is a non-recourse loan. So if the securities were to, or the value of the securities were to fall that much, the borrower could simply stop making payments and just forfeit the less valuable securities, and the lender has no other recourse other than to assume ownership of the securities. There is no further penalty. Now, while this loan may seem too good to be true, two primary drawbacks. Number one, it's the lockout, like I just said. You must continue to pay that loan for the entire term of the loan that you chose to begin with, or that the borrower chose. If the value, number two, if the value of the security declines substantially during the loan term, the borrower may have to provide additional funds or collateral to keep the loan viable. Again, he could just walk away also. As far as tax-wise, these loans are qualifying stock lending agreements. Therefore, they are a non-taxable event in respect to any gain or loss at the time of the transfer of the securities. But, as in any major financial transaction, I advise that the borrower should consult with their tax advisor prior to entering into any agreement that may have tax consequences. I'm not an attorney, I'm not an accountant, no such representation is being made here. But you can call me toll-free at 1-866-RON-BORG. That's 1-866-RONBORG, and I will happily discuss the loan with you further.